serious men of Reddit who have been raped by women. What's your story? We hope the following resources will bring all victims the support they need. RAIN. https://www.rain.org/ has a multitude of tools for current and recovering sexual assault victims in the United States. Hot Peach Pages houses an international directory. http://hotpeachpages.net/countries. HTML in over 110 languages. 1 in 6. https://1 in 6. org/ offers a wide range of information and services to male sexual violence survivors. On Reddit, /r/rapper counseling is dedicated to providing emotional support to sexual violence victims. As well, /r/adult survivors is a community for adults who experienced sexual abuse as children. Keep in mind, these communities are not led by professionals. What has happened to you is not right, nor it is your fault. It's okay to be scared and unsure. Please, seek help if you are struggling. You deserve to be happy. The AskReddit mods, if you have contributions or amendments, please notify the mods of /r/AskReddit. My piano teacher, 35F. I was about 11 when I first went, probably 14 when I finished. She was married, had a child. It started with comments, inappropriate ones. Looking back, she was testing the water, sitting next to me on the piano stool, hand on legs at times. I remember her telling me my eyes are up here, just to make me feel awkward, when I know I wasn't looking. She then flashed me them saying, "Would I focus now?" I was so nervous and had no idea what to say. It got a little bit worse each week, ever so slowly. I honestly have blanked this out my mind for years. I think she touched me and made me come, and that's it. Nothing more. I made an excuse and quit piano to my parents. Never told anyone the full extent. She used to let me get away with not doing piano work and say it was our secret, which I realized she was encompassing the whole thing being our secret. I'm deeply embarrassed about it. I'm 27 and totally believe my kinks are related to that experience. How messed up, eh? You're not messed up. You were a victim of someone else being messed up. Maybe try therapy. It helps you process and make sense of the stuff that's happened to you. Either way, I hope you find peace. Well, I wasn't violently raped or anything like that, but I was 13 and she was like 30. It was wrong. I was a child and she groomed me. I don't think I have any residual trauma or anything like that, but I do feel upset when I think about it. Well, I wasn't violently raped or anything, fortunately and unfortunately. Violent rape i.e. abductions almost never happen. Obviously not a real stat, but I'd wager 90% is incidents like this where one party was unconscious, underage, guilted into it, etc. Unfortunately, this happens much more than any one person could ever know, as much of it goes unreported for the same reasons mentioned above. It's usually someone you know. The woman in question was a family friend that I spent a lot of time around. Nobody ever would have suspected her, and I still feel low-key ashamed that I didn't say anything to anyone. I'm sorry to hear that. Nobody should have to deal with this type of shit ever, let alone at 13. Starts as it often does. Out for a drink with a friend, lady. Ended up chatting with a lot of new folk. Met some girl who was a friend of a friend. She was sober for the night and ended up offering me and my friend a ride home when we decided to go. Cool. Cheaper than Uber. I ended up getting wasted. Rest of the story is as recounted to me by my friend. End of the night as we heading home. Girl asks where friend lives. Friend says she's spending the night at mine, as we'd planned. We've been besties for better part of a decade at this point. Girl says she's not. Friend explains her bag is at mine, with her keys in. Girl says, "Where do you stay? It's that or I throw you out here." I'm passed out in the backseat unresponsive. Friend eventually gives an address where she knows she can get in and immediately tries to contact my roommates. To no avail. I woke up naked, alone in bed, with a used condom on. You know as much about what happened as I do. Sorry this happened to you. I had a similar experience where a girl intentionally got me fucked up to sleep with me. I was a freshman in college and my roommate and a couple of my friends were going to this sorority date function. This is a type of party where you have to be invited by a member of the sorority to go as dates. You can't just show up, and members can't bring multiple dates. I knew some girls in the sorority and asked them if anyone was looking for a date. I end up getting set up with a girl who I had never met. Looked her up on Facebook and she wasn't super cute, but I was thrilled just to get an invite. We hosted the pre-game in my dorm room and had about 10 other people over before the event. She's pretty late to the pre-game and I'm already drinking with some other friends when she arrives. I ask if she would like anything. She declines and says she's just sticking to water that night. That's not an issue with me, but I continue to drink with the friends I knew. Tried to incorporate her into conversations, but she just kind of sat in a corner not chatting to anyone including her sisters she already knew most of the night. So I'm already getting weird vibes. Time comes to leave for the event, and at this point I'm already probably a 7/10 drunk. Not sloppy or anything, but certainly needed to slow down the consumption. This is in the US, and I was underage, so this was most people's strategies, because we knew we wouldn't be able to drink at the bar where the actual event was being held. I'm showing people out of my place and about to lock up when she says, "Wait, I want a shot before we leave." Okay, that's kind of strange that you now want shots when everyone is gone, but maybe you just changed your mind about the staying sober thing because the rest of us are all pretty drunk. So I say sure, go for it. She pulls out 2 double shot glasses and fills one to the brim and the other barely halfway. She hands the very full double to me and says cheers. Against my best judgment, I take the shot due to some young guy manliness complex. Yuck. I'm already feeling terrible now and really ready to catch up with the group. But she puts the glasses down and fills them up the same way again. I knew I shouldn't have taken the second shot, but was a young idiot and didn't know my limits, yet so I take the it anyways. I'm now borderline blackout and she's about 1 to 2 drinks in. Basically sober. We go to the bar and I don't really remember anything other than her grinding on me and making out in front of tons of people. I'm already feeling uncomfortable with this and stumbling around. So I tell her sorry, I'm too drunk to be here and I'm going to go home. I'm already apologizing for being a bad date and tell her she should stay with her friends because I didn't want to ruin her night. But she tells me don't worry about it. I'll walk you home. I'm ready to get out of here too. So once we get back to the dorm, I'm very much trying to just go home alone and pass out. But she insists that she talked to the girl my roommate went with and tells me they were planning on hooking up in my room, so I cannot go back there. She even takes my keys and tells me I have to stay in her room. I'm already trying to explain that my roommate has hooked up with girls when I'm in the room and I'm going to be PTFO anyways, so it doesn't matter. But she runs off with my keys to her room. I have no other way of getting into my room, so I have to go with her. Her roommate was gone or something. So we get in there and I'm just trying to go to sleep anywhere I can because I can barely keep my eyes open. I get into her bed and pass out. Later I wake up to her giving me a terrible BJ and didn't really know what was going on. I think I asked her to stop but can't really remember. She then gets on top and starts trying to ride me. I had whiskey dick, so things already weren't really working, but she did get me inside her. Eventually, I pushed her off of me, found my clothes, and got up and went back to sleep in her roommate's bed. In the early morning I found my keys and snuck out of there. When I got to my room, my roommate wasn't even there. He had gone back to the girl's place, so that part was a total lie. She clearly intentionally got me fucked up to try and sleep with me while she was completely sober by the time we got to her place. I'm lucky that I was bigger and could physically get her off of me. I feel so sorry for women who end up in a similar position but can't physically remove themselves from the situation like I was able to. I had one case where I was at a party. I had been drinking and had a girl that had been trying to hook up with me previously, but I hadn't wanted to. She wasn't my type. So we are drinking and she's there. She's being cool. I remember pieces of us being in a car. She was on top of me, woke up in my car, and was like, yo WTFBC. I had at most 4 to 5 drinks as I had planned to be driving home. So I guess at one point this girl got my drink and crushed as an ex, which I had only taken once before at this point in my life, and put it in the drink. A lot of our buddies just thought it was funny. I absolutely didn't. It took me years to come to terms with it. Edit. Thanks for the overwhelming response. I didn't think it would be upvoted like this. I'm not friends with that group anymore. And haven't been for some time. This happened when I was 19, and I'm 35 now. I also know that drinking and driving isn't good. I don't do that anymore. This happened 16 years ago when I wasn't living as clean as I do now. It did take me a long time to come to terms with it, but this happened in 2005 when these things just weren't taken seriously, at least in Texas where I lived at the time. The story actually got worse with the female trying to make sure I'm okay by harassing me for months, then ended up lying and telling everyone she was pregnant so I'd talk to her. That conversation ended immediately when she admitted she had just lied and wanted to make sure I was okay. I'm doing pretty great in life now. Have a wife, and I do what I love to do. I was honestly shocked to hear from others who have been through similar situations. Breaks my heart tbh. Those ain't yo buddies. Yeah, fuck those clowns. Yeah, Opus. You need new friends. If you haven't already gotten rid of them. Went to a small party when I was 16 and got blackout drunk. All I remember is puking my guts up and then a girl who I'd known for a while. Someone who I trusted helping me to a bed. I wake up naked and her on top of me. I then passed out again within a few seconds. The next day I confronted her about it and she obviously denied it. Because my mom is incredibly understanding, I told her about it and she took me to get tested for a few things. My mom is the only one who knows. Not even my fiance knows, even though I know she'd understand seeing as she was raped at a young age by a close family member. The friend and I never spoke again. I still fucking hate her for what she did to me that night. I wasn't exactly saving myself for anything special, but she took my virginity that night. Something that I wanted to be sober for. I think it's amazing you have such an understanding mother who had already made you feel comfortable in opening up to her about your life. Especially something like this. Can I give your mom a Reddit award? Lol. Obligatory note, this happened to a friend of mine. Not to me. I have a gay friend. He's smart, fun to be with, and would generally be regarded as very good looking. He is also rather small, about 5'4" or 5'5", I'd guess. Though I think he wears lifts, so I'm not sure. He's the kind of person with a big personality, so you don't notice his height so much. One thing that it took me a very long time to notice is that he is extremely nervous around women. Particularly if they are taller and or stockier than he is. He's small and slim. I remarked on this to him a couple of times, but he always brushed it off. Eventually, though, he explained that he'd been raped by a woman at a party. He explained that she was taller and heavier than him, and had a similar female friend. Both of them found him attractive, and he implied to me that one of them clearly had a fetish for smaller men. The friend basically held him down in one of the bedrooms upstairs from the party. I think he'd gone upstairs to use the bathroom while the woman pulled down his pants and raped him. I believe this was oral and vaginal sex. For obvious reasons I didn't ask about the details. I asked him why he hadn't gone to the police, but he explained that he didn't believe that they would help. I have the impression that he had approached the crisis center at his college, but they seem to have brushed it off. I don't know why. From what I can work out, the experience left him badly traumatized, and he continues to be very uncomfortable around women. He doesn't really talk about it though. I only learned about this because I happened to press him on the issue. It does seem a terrible thing to have to endure, though. Unfortunately, a lot of the crisis centers at colleges are of the mindset that men are bad, and that only women can be raped. Now before someone tries to rip me apart, I did say a lot. Not all. There are definitely exceptions to this. The crisis center of a college is about the same as ours for a company. They are there for the college/boss, not the student/employee. Go to the police. The police don't give a fuck about a university's reputation. The police don't give a fuck about a university's reputation. Unfortunately, that isn't always true. My city has a real problem with nepotism and the university is the city's cash cow, so the police tend to ignore a lot of issues. Especially when it comes to the university. They lost nearly their entire robotics department around a decade ago because the university was, allegedly, misappropriating funds and wouldn't respond to them when they asked about it. I think they actually had a good amount of evidence, but the police just weren't interested. I can't even count how many times government and university officials have been investigated for corruption or insert pretty much any other shady practices here, just to have the case swept under the rug while a low-level peon somewhere takes all the blame, if any is assigned in the first place. That is. For reference, it's a semi-major metropolitan area in the US, a city where RDA has been under a decades-long FBI investigation for corruption, but very few people seem to know or care. My best friend got me plastered drunk, and when I tried to say no she said, "Do you really think you can say no to me?" I didn't even know what had happened until she confessed that she had raped me. Edit. This read confusing to me. So to clarify, I don't remember it happening or telling her no. I was blacked out. She confessed to me years later that she was sober enough to know what she was doing was wrong, knew I couldn't consent, and that I had tried to stop her and she forced me. I only remember waking up naked with cuts on my back from her fingernails. Do you really think you can say no to me? When I was 18 or so, an acquaintance made a pass at me and I declined. I wasn't feeling it. She was a bit drunk and had something of a reputation. Not much longer after that I left the college we were at to head home. I'd been home for about 5 minutes when my back door swung open and she barged in screaming that no one was allowed to turn her down. She'd followed me home to find out where I lived. After trying to reason with her for 5 minutes, I eventually decided that the last thing I needed was my mother waking up to a drunk code in our house screaming that we needed to have sex. So I eventually scooted her off to my bedroom and went through the motions of foreplay/hooking up for the 15 minutes it took her to pass out. 20 some years later, and about the only memory of it I really have is the sickly sweet rancid smell of whatever peach wine she'd been drinking on her breath and her saying something like the rules of engagement for tonight. There will be no fluid exchange before she took my penis in her mouth. There wasn't. It wasn't a flattering experience. That is still rape. Using pressure and coercion to procure sex is rape. Yeah, I can hear the "you could have just said no" crowd, but having been in that situation you feel just as dirty and violated, like you don't have bodily autonomy. No one should feel that way, and I'm sorry. I have a feeling that saying no wouldn't have worked either. She'd probably escalate the situation further. I was around 14, in boarding school in Nigeria. No alcohol or anything involved, and it was 4 girls in senior class, and it was some sort of initiation to a gang. I went out to take a pee around midnight. Yeah, the only option was by the bush that late. Remember weeing and they attacked me from behind. They pinned me down and took rounds with me. Couldn't go anymore after the second girl, so they just beat me up pretty bad and left. Didn't say a word about it to anyone till this day. One of the girls was expelled a while later for being pregnant. They pinned in on her school boyfriend at the time. Something still tells me that kid is mine. P.S. I was very scrawny and scared to shit, so I don't scream for anything, plus one of them had a machete, tools we used to clear fields from wild grass etc. When I was 12, a nurse gave me a routine physical exam and then had me strip naked and lie down on the exam table, saying it was part of the physical. She groped my testicles and fondled my penis until I got an erection. She then fingered and digitally penetrated my anus. For decades, I assumed it was just an embarrassing incident. It was only when I posted my experience on a Reddit thread and a bunch of people pointed out I had been assaulted that I recognized what happened. I didn't think I'd post about it again, but the attitude of your friend infuriated me because it was the same attitude I held that caused me so much shame. After all, if my dick got hard I must have enjoyed it, right? It's a terrible and demeaning notion, one that's too often internalized by the abused. I was 10 years old and my sister and I went to a sleepover with 2 girlfriends of us. The elder one was 15 at the time. I didn't know much about sex, neither was interested. In the middle of the night this girl started moaning to my ear and asked me to hug her. When I did, she lied on top of me. My sister and hers were asleep and slid my pants and underwear down, and I couldn't understand. But the feeling I could identify was fear definitely. After a while she got off of me and asked me if I had a boner and told me that means I liked it. Honestly, I can't say I liked it because I didn't even understood what happened until some years after. My mind made me forget this memory until I was around 18. It's the first time I share this story, and now in my 30s I get that this episode of my life could have triggered the problems I have faced with the opposite sex, such as my low self-esteem, lack of confidence, hypersexualization, and in my teenage years my fear of talking and facing girls I liked. I have thought about going to therapy, but I feel ashamed. Any good advice or words will be appreciated. I'm not capable of saying the story here, but just for awareness. My mother, while I was like 8 to 12. I was really young, stayed at a friend's house. His older sister and her friend got me into her room, was going to teach me how to kiss. It turned into them using me as an object. I just froze. I was maybe 12, 13. I was so young that girls weren't something I thought of. I liked sports and boy stuff. I didn't tell a soul about it until I was in my 20s. They told as many people as would listen. I denied it and didn't let up. I came very close at a New Year's party a long time ago. Got extremely hammered and passed out in a bathroom. This girl I'd never met before was offering to help me to the bed downstairs. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up to this girl trying to get me hard. I was so drunk. All I could do was sorta push her off, but she wouldn't stop. Eventually a friend of mine popped his head in, and I yelled for him to help me, and he caught on pretty quick and cussed her out until she finally left. If you are new to Tattletale TV, please subscribe. We have new videos every day. Stay tuned for more coming up next.